Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
You must be kind of down to the wire, no? Your trip's coming up?
Yeah. I started packing yesterday. It's got me kind of bummed out. I did parts work around it this morning because I've been feeling kind of depressed for about a week, and I didn't know what that was about.
Yeah.
So I was doing some parts work, and I realized I hate packing. I just hate it, and there's no way to win packing. If you do really, really well, then nothing happens. That's the best outcome you can get.
Yeah. But also, it's so much worse on the home end. I mean, when you get there and you just have your stuff and that's all, you don't have to think about anything. And then, and when you leave, mostly it's okay unless you accumulated stuff. But and then unpacking when you get home is kind of shitty too, I find.
That's not as bad for me. Yeah, trying to decide what all do I need to. It's a 3-month trip. It's I could bring my whole house. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard because you kind of need the same stuff for, 2 weeks as you do for 3 months, but then it feels more complicated. And not that I've ever gone away for 3 months exactly. Maybe, that's a tricky one. Do you have and you have to close your house down as well, and empty the fridge and all that stuff.
And empty the fridge. I have been eating so much because I'm the kind of person that buys 3 months ahead. My freezer is always completely packed.
Yeah.
So I gotta eat. I'm trying to eat about 1.5 pounds of meat every day for the next few days.
Well, that's gonna really set you up for a long flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Lots
it's
of
true.
energy.
3 months is a chunk of time, but it must be exciting. Yeah, packing sucks.
Yeah.
Packing sucks for me, even for 2 nights or something. It's just.
Well, I realized doing my parts work this morning. It's I hate packing to go to town for an hour.
Right.
I have 2 or 3 errands to do. What am I going to forget?
Yeah.
And just that. It's
me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's a good,
so is
good
it
part
about
to get to.
Is it about forgetting stuff or just not choosing the right stuff or?
Yeah, I think both. But it's I have to do this work that has no immediate payoff.
Yeah.
And the best situation is that nothing happens. But usually, or if there is any other situation, it's negative.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, passport ticket's money. That's all you need, really. But
the first time I went, it was just a week before I flew that I realized I'm also supposed to have a visa.
Oh,
yeah.
Geez. Yeah.
And the visa arrived, I think around like 3 or 4 a.m. for my 7 a.m. flight, something like that.
Oh God, that must be stressful. So do you need a different one when you go for 3 months than you just go for a short trip, or no?
It's about the same. So
well, I hope the excited hearts can still be excited with even through the packing. I mean, it's just, this is probably the hardest stage, right? Like right before.
Yes.
Yeah. Exciting,
anyway,
though.
I'm happy to be right here, right now, not focused on all my junk.
Yeah, I would find it very hard. So, yeah. Okay, IFS.
I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready. I've had a lot of stuff come up since last time. Yeah, and my parts that want to sort of like find the right thing and find the right trailhead and all that stuff, they're definitely buzzing around. And I tried today to kind of like actually, I don't know what I tried to do, just to be aware of them, you know. There's a couple of really different situations that I feel like actually really loop back to the same stuff that and one of those pathways is actually just kind of picking up sort of where we left off with the hazy part, and you know what I'm thinking of as the kind of mother exile, and what else? Yeah, I mean, I've done some. I've tried. Yeah, this is what else. I was really trying regularly just to kind of meet with the hazy part or be aware of the hazy part, and it's kind of by nature difficult, obviously, right? Because hazy's hazy. And I realized that both listening to the call and also just trying to get to know it and kind of make space for it, that there is a part blocking that appreciation piece. And I could hear myself like in the call going, yeah, I am appreciating it. And so, yeah, it seems to be a very subtle or a part that I'm very blended with often, that is kind of like, yep, I appreciate it, but it doesn't feel quite genuine. And that one has to do, I think the feeling behind that part is kind of like, yeah, but it's so counterproductive, right? So there's just this frustration about how it slows me down and so on. And so I kind of feel the genuine appreciation is there, but it's sort of at one remove. There's a layer kind of that I was definitely could hear when I re-listened to the call, and has definitely come up for me in practice. So
is this all in relation to appreciating the hazy part?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it's probably there with other in other, you know, maybe in appreciating the anxious part, like any parts that kind of I think that this part perceives to be sort of you know, slowing things down or being very counterproductive. Like it gets why they do what they do, but it's like, you know, that's not the way to do it. That's not helping. I think that's what it is. And yeah.
Okay.
And I don't really, you know, that in only in that kind of moment of like, no, really, I'm starting to really understand more about what the hazy part is trying to not, you know, trying to protect me from, with the help of our last conversation. And so I think because we got a little closer, that sort of self-like part, or what, I don't know what else to call it, really is getting a little bit more clear to me as well.
The one that says, that's kind of opposed to the hazy part and says, look, we need to
Yeah. It's
we
like,
need
come
to
on.
see through this.
It's just slightly exasperated because it is frustrating to kind of feel sometimes like super clear, and then suddenly everything just gets a bit scrambled, Yeah. So I sort of met that part a little bit more. It's obviously been there all along, and maybe it's a kind of doing IFS part. But yeah, I had several instances where I was like, yeah, what's on top of that appreciation,
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shall we have a minute of meditation and then
let's do it?
See who needs us. Okay.
Yeah.
I will set a timer.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey.
Do you know which part needs your attention or who you'd like to turn to?
I'm going to start with sensations as usual.
Great.
I've been getting a sensation a lot today of kind of like it's not that different from the usual buzzy sort of jitteriness that I'll get, and I feel it on my face, but it feels a little bit more like being pushed back and pushed down. And that's there quite strongly.
Okay. Is that just connected to this conversation and our exploration, or is there other stuff that was coming up today?
I think it's all the same stuff. When I retrace where we were last time, if I think about that adult mother part that I actually talked about in two different ways, because there was all the stuff at the beginning that I mentioned. It leads back to just feeling like I'm just always going to get it wrong in one way or another. I mean, those particular painful feelings from that era.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I look laterally or more deeply, like those are super familiar kind of feelings in different situations. And and yeah, are these sensations that I have right now a direct line to this? I'm going to say let's assume that, because it's been the stuff that's coming up for me, a lot since our last call, but also in kind of like, in kind of thinking like, what's up for me right now?
Okay.
And yeah,
we can just check it out and see how related they are. How do you feel towards the buzzy, jittery one?
I think there's curiosity there. I guess that there's at least one other part that's kind of like the, want to get this right part,
Yes. Well, it's interesting because what we were going to check out with the buzzy, jittery one was if it's connected to the one that says I will always get it wrong.
Oh, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the sort of situation that I feel like leads back, like all the upper details are different, but I feel like it leads back to the same thing, is just a sense, and it's kind of work related. I won't get into the weeds of describing what it is, but the situation that just keeps coming up, and then I see it like all over my life at different times in different ways, is kind of always deferring to someone else, even if I really, understand a lot more about this or have plenty of experience in this situation. And it's about that. And when I ask myself, like, why is that the case for me? What's going on, really? I think it just comes back down to this kind of like, I'm always going to get it wrong. There's no way that I can get it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job of noticing all of this and explaining it.
Okay. Yeah. So it pops up in lots of different ways. And I'm sure I've talked about it in different ways before.
I believe so. I believe that it's come up just in our work, just in how you and I relate.
Yeah.
That there's going along with some of my random assumptions sometimes, and then
maybe
deciding, well, no, it actually wasn't what I should have said yes to.
Yeah, there was that one word, but mostly, I think, we had a call where I talked about the cut part, the one where it was just like going, nope, just stopping me. I think that's related to this as well. And I don't know if it was in the same call, but, there was the young one that just like, felt that knowing stuff was so, was such an important line to getting, some kind of recognition, validation, etc., etc. It's all related. I don't want to, fill in the gaps. Too much.
Great.
This way,
Great.
but whenever it comes up for me, I'm like, that is just also connected.
Okay. So maybe we can go back to the buzzy jittery and just see if it wants to tell us anything about any of these relationships or about itself.
Well, I feel like the word stop came up very quickly after you asked the question. Then I didn't get any more understanding than that, like whether it was like a stop, don't do that, or stop. Like stop, don't try.
Do you feel like it comes from the same as the buzzy jittery?
It just came up right when you asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering if you can detect if that feels like it's a message from that part.
I think.
You're not sure.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure, but with the sensation, I just have a couple of times, in sitting still and trying to tune inwards, almost got this sensation of like a hand on my face, just like pushing me back. And relating the stop to that a little bit.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel towards it?
I think I feel a sort of sense of the injustice of it, which we could say is a kind of care for it. Like it just feels wrong for that to happen.
Feels wrong to be pushed back and down?
Yeah.
Okay. So the buzzy and jittery, it feels like it's being pushed back and down. It's not the one that does the pushing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know. Like it's almost like I can feel the stimulus and the response together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's often something that I'm trying to tease out, because it's really common that I often say, one part is pointing out and one part's pointing in. You'll never get it right, and versus I'll never get it right kind of is often two very different parts. And so
of course, yeah.
Wondering kind of.
I think both are there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think both are there because the like the one that just wants to stop and put, there's the cut part. I was calling it the cut part, like those two, that movie thing. That just kind of is so imperceptible and happens so quickly.
Yeah. So how do you feel towards that one?
Well, yeah, I'd say I feel curious. So in this instance, I didn't get that little cut thing, but this feeling of being pushed, something sort of pushing me back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel curious about what that's about.
Okay. Let's see if we can ask space from the other ones, like perhaps the one that is being pushed, or any of these other parts, getting it right parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then let the pusher let it know that we're curious about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you could ask, what do you want me to know?
I'm getting that it's pointless.
Okay. What's pointless?
Moving forward.
Moving forward.
Moving forward or up is pointless. But when I've been feeling this sensation without thinking about it too much or getting into it, I've always kind of perceived it as something that's being done to me from the outside. But it makes sense that there's a part, I guess, creating that sensation.
Yeah, and it would make sense if it's both. Sometimes it's other people who have pushed on you and kept you from feeling like you can move forward or up, and sometimes it's your own part. So you can just thank this part for speaking with us, because it has been a little imperceptible before. So just thank it.
Yeah, it's interesting when I feel the sensation, I can tell, like I'm not looking in a mirror or anything, but I can kind of tell that my face goes into this sort of grimace.
Yeah. I'm curious what forward and up mean in this context. But if you feel like you understand and don't want to explain that, that's fine.
I can think of situations in my life where that could represent, actions I would take or things that I want to do. But really, like in this instance, in this communication, it's almost just like, being in a position low to the ground and trying to get up and being pushed back. It's just very physical.
Okay.
So getting up, yeah.
Maybe you could ask the part for a time, an example, when it felt like it really needed to do that in a strong way.
I'm just getting kind of vague visuals of the living room of the house where I grew up. And when I get those, I get that chorus of of the parts that are like, doubting the connection or waiting for it to become clearer and then nothing happens, kind of thing.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
What's the part where it would happen if it didn't push in this way?
Hmm. Just that I would be seen or noticed or somehow in the center of something, and that I don't know what would be bad about that. I don't know. Because there's almost a violence to it.
Okay.
That
There's a sense of danger if
yeah,
you're seen or in the center.
I think so.
Okay.
But the pushing itself is also quite just somehow seems a little bit more than kind of keeping me out of harm's way.
How do you mean by that? What about it seems like more than that?
Just the strength of it, I think. But I don't know. I'm not getting a sense of not getting a more sense of what the danger would have been.
I wonder if there's a part of you that is trying to figure this part out and is saying, well, the strength of this part does not match my, I'm not in harm's way when I'm talking to this person at work or something. And it's kind of pulling us away from what we can learn directly from this part.
Yeah, there could well be. I mean, I'm not in any way thinking about work or those sort of more adult situations at this point. I'm sort of in my living room somewhat as a child.
Okay. Let's see if we can step back from the child in the living room. Let the child know that we've got a good look or somewhat of a look, and that we want to come back. But that we'd really like to understand the protectors around this scene.
Okay, so I'm just back to the sensation of being pushed down. That's quite strong.
Excellent. Great. Still feeling curious about that?
I am, but I'm trying to generate a little bit more curiosity.
Okay.
Because it still feels a little dull.
Curiosity feels dull?
Feels like it's there, but it's a tiny bit forced, or maybe there's that layer of like, well, I don't know what I feel,
Yeah. Yep. These are the checking parts and maybe the do IFS right parts?
Maybe.
Or the hazy ones. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing great so far. I appreciate hearing you speak for those parts. And yeah, we just want to, this pushing part has given us some clarity, some direct answers. So we're just going to stay That's my plan, is just kind of stay learning about its experience, what it feels, why it's doing what it's doing. And it's either going to answer or it's not. And both of those are fine.
Okay. Let me stay with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. How's that connection going? How are you feeling towards it?
So I feel like I had a thought at one point, just like in this last silence, that it was about not being born. I wish I was never born. Mm-hmm. And when that came up, of course, just thinking parts came up, or doubting parts came up and said, well, you're making that connection because like just saying that I got there the wrong way. So I tried to just sit with that a little bit, and that's as far as I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
What way did you get there? Do you know?
Yeah, because the sensation is so strong, and it's come up for me before, but we've linked it with different parts, or when working with sort of different types of parts. It's maybe slightly different where it is, and but I think I shared that, somatically the sensation is pretty familiar, and I kind of wondered if it was a birthing memory and so on. And so I don't feel like I got there by thinking all that stuff, but as soon as I had that thought, then the questions come in like, well, have I carved a pathway to this by thinking about it in the past, and that's why it's coming up. So I could just,
I just want to welcome the doubting parts. I appreciate hearing from them.
Yeah.
We do need to check ourselves and check what's coming up.
Yeah.
I also want to offer that what we're doing is navigating previously carved pathways. So if you've thought about something a lot in the past, that's not necessarily a reason to discount it.
No. And I haven't thought about, okay, I wish I was never born, as much as, well, I'm sure I've had moments where I felt that way, but as much as like, what is this pushing down on my forehead? Okay. That's where yeah. So let me just rewind a little bit if I can, just to the curiosity part.
something else I'd like to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Parts can speak with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we can do some pretty good work. If your self energy, your curiosity is low, especially because we're doing the recording, and I know you listen back, and I know you do your homework. So just want to take some of that pressure off. If there's parts of you that are saying, I need to get curious, I need to get curious.
Yeah.
First of all, it doesn't usually work that way. And second of all, you don't actually have to.
Okay.
So with the the buzzy, jittery part, the pushing part.
It's right now, it's just pushing. It's not even buzzy or...
Great.
Yeah.
It's concerned about, it wants to stop forward and upward movement. It feels physical. It feels violent. And maybe what it's trying to prevent is also violence, it feels like. Check with the part. If we're hearing it right, if we're understanding it right. And everything that we've encountered, I would like to recheck with this part. And I can list those for you. Shall I share the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a question for the pushing part. It mentioned a concern about being seen, noticed in the center. And I'm curious if one of the reasons for that has to do with some sense that there might be violence if you're seen and noticed and in the center.
I think the hazy part is active right now.
Hey, hazy part. What's up, hazy part? Yeah.
Yeah, because even, Hazy is here.
Hazy, what brings you here today?
Just getting close to stuff.
Getting close to some sensitive stuff, some scary stuff. Yeah, I had the same feeling.
Yeah.
I thought we might be getting close to some sensitive or scary stuff. And what's your concern if we do get close to that? Might just get kind of overwhelmed by that feeling, get blended with those scared parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can happen. So, yeah, thanks for ringing the bell.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
Yeah. I think that you have every reason to be good at that. Because if Mimi got overwhelmed with that, well, the effects would be You can tell me if you want, like, well, we don't have to go there, but I just am trying to validate the kind of real consequences there might be if these parts overwhelm.
There would be like nothing left to stand on.
And so you've kind of noticed that before? Has the system felt like that before? Or it's like, we're in this place, there's nothing left to stand on.
Yeah, there's like no solidity. There's like we could get swallowed up and just yeah, just disappear.
Sounds kind of like hell.
It's very like a landslide, like a like nothing solid.
Okay.
Nothing to hang on to.
Yeah. All right. I'm curious if Hazy part is kind of in the same game as the pushing down part. Like they're both kind of like, don't go there. This is not. Both kind of pushing back in different ways.
I can't talk for that pushing part because I'm still not really sure about it. But yes, definitely Hazy is.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question for Hazy part. Hazy part, have you ever felt genuinely appreciated by the self in there?
A little bit.
Yeah. How was it?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I get plenty of opposition.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, they don't like me.
Yeah. Well, I like you. I think you're there for a good reason. I think you're a good part.
Thank you.
And I personally don't mind spending time with you and learning more about you, because I think you show up a lot or with some regularity, and so you have a good reason to, and I'm curious about that.
Well, I'm not a big talker.
That's totally fine. Although, if it's just you and me, then you might feel obligated to talk. And so what I was going to suggest is for you to try on blending a little bit, stepping back a little bit, and not so we'll go to whatever those scary things were, but just so perhaps self can be with you a little.
Okay. That's hard to do.
Yeah. I can promise I will not turn us to the other parts. Or at least I'll give you fair warning when, or with your permission. We'll only do that with your permission.
Well, it's lifting and it's opening, and it sort of is merging with that pushing feeling right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does the hazy part like its job? Or how long has it been doing it? And or.
It doesn't feel like it has any choice. And I think 6.
No choice.
No choice.
That sucks.
Yeah. It does.
What was going on at age 6? We don't have to go in detail and we don't have to go to that part, but just curious what 6 was like from the perspective of the hazy part.
School. Safer not to know stuff.
Now, are you telling me that at 6 I felt safer not to know, or are you telling me that it's safer for us not to talk about what was going on?
I think the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a feeling like it's safer not to know at school and or to do with school, and Hazy will kind of solve that. I wonder. Hazy mentioned maybe be having something to do with pushing down part. Like I said, I'm not going to go there necessarily or without its permission. But there was something mentioned about being seen and noticed, maybe having trouble with that or fear around that. And I wonder if when it says safer not to know, I don't know. I was just imagining like when you get to school and you raise your hand and you say something in front of everyone and you're seen and you're in the center. Maybe you're putting some of your knowledge parts to work. And if that's not received well, then maybe the message is it's safer not to know. Am I connecting too many dots? Does any of that resonate?
Not really for that age, no. It does for later, for sure.
Okay.
I feel like it was not in the classroom.
Okay.
How's
How's the hazy part feel about where we are now, just in the conversation and talking with it about some of its memories?
The hazy part likes to be mysterious.
Yeah. That's fine.
Kind of superpower.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Makes everything misty.
Yeah. But is it bothered by the attention it's getting right now?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Does it want to give us some more clues about age 6?
Well, there was a landslide. There was an actual landslide that had happened like there was a place that I could see from my school where that landslide like was still visible, and it had been several years before, but it was really a big shocking thing, I think, in the community. And that just keeps coming up as this, maybe connected with this sense of danger somehow. And I remember other kids talking about it. I don't remember my parents ever talking about it. I think it was right before we moved there, actually. But I remember I remember what it looks like to, it was sort of pointed out. That's where the landslide,
that's
started.
Where the shocking landslide was.
Yeah.
People were shocked, and it was safer not to know.
I don't know. I mean, I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole a couple of months ago, maybe, reading about that community and the school that I was in and all that. And I actually I never had realized how devastating this landslide was. There was a lot of destruction and yeah.
Loss of life?
I don't know. But I feel like there was a kid in my life, like a kid same age as me, who had more knowledge of it than me.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who would point it out. Yeah.
And when you pointed it out, I wonder how that experience was.
I have no memories of being really frightened of the idea. It's just that the image comes up and the word and and again, maybe our cognitive parts connecting like groundless and landslide, but there was really a sense of this kind of churning and disappearing of solidity in this talking to Hazy and
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm just getting a sense now of like what's not said is as powerful as what is said, or I just feel like there's a lot that wasn't said, and I can't necessarily connect that with the landslide, but there's a lot that wasn't said. Yeah.
But then the message kind of became like, it's safer not to know. It kind of became the belief or Hazy's motto.
That does resonate. I'm not sure how if that's how Hazy operates so much. I mean,
I think that I was quoting it when I said that. So
safer not to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Safer not to feel. And I'm saying that because after the last call, like there was like really like quite a lot of emotion unleashed afterwards. That I took as like Hazy had moved out of the way a little bit and kind of, yeah.
And some of those feelings were kind of unsettling. Felt scary.
Well, with where it pointed us in the last call, it was yeah, I guess they are scary in some way. There's just this kind of desperate feeling of like never, ever, that it's always wrong. It's never going to be right.
Okay.
And it will never be enough.
Right.
And that was quite strong.
Okay.
And I am connecting that with the sort of the ground moving and like having no solidity now.
Okay.
Mm.
How's the hazy part doing with us glimpsing some of this from the distance we are?
I think it's okay. It's kind of thinning out.
Okay. I just want to send it my appreciation for so many things, for actually bringing us some clarity, but also for letting us get to know it and for its role.
What it does is it comes in and like fills up all the space. Yeah. Yeah, it fills up all the space so that everything is kind of blanketed and
I get it.
Yeah. But I think it feels okay.
Yep. I get it. You know, I was an alcoholic for a really long time. And I think if I was going to get to the bottom of why am I doing this, my answers would probably be the same of it's safer not to feel, and also maybe feelings of not being enough, or kind of always just a feeling of always wrongness. So yeah, I really appreciate that hazy part. Parts of me are a little envious, or it's like, man, I wish I had a hazy part and didn't have to destroy so many of my brain cells and whatever else to achieve that.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, there are very addictive parts or tendencies to be addictive that hazy, I'm not sure if hazy is kind of been the one to protect me from those. I think there's other parts who've kind of just stepped in.
How do you feel towards hazy part?
I appreciate hazy parts.
Yeah.
Hard work, and intentions. Yeah.
What does the hazy part think about self, the one who's appreciating it? Sometimes I ask, how old does it think you are?
It's very cautious about this. I think there is a sense that it can share with self, or that it can lighten up with self around. But it's definitely not like all the clouds are just going to go away.
Yeah, I'm not asking it to go away.
I know.
I want to know what its relationship with self is, what its understanding of self is. Again, sometimes a kind of shortcut to that is like, how old does it think you are? Because sometimes that gives us kind of a black and white, like, oh, well, that's wrong. So, but really, I'm curious, any amount of understanding it has or relationship it has with self.
I'm not sure on the age, because I feel like a lot of ages, but again, six, it seemed to say 6 before, but I also don't quite feel like 6 is right, and then maybe many ages are right.
Which is a common answer.
Yeah. And in terms of its relationship with self, I'm going back to that sense that something is a little bit in the way of that. That another part that's kind of annoyed by the hazy part.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Okay. Well, we can try to send the hazy part the message that relationship does matter. If other parts are annoyed with it, that also matters, and we want to work with that. See if we can get them to relax. And that, self can be the one that's on its team or understands it and makes a space where it can be itself without judgment.
I think it feels really bad about its job.
Yeah.
Now in this moment. Because,
Yeah, well, it said it didn't really even choose that job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty thankless, and it's just obscuring everything. So then it isn't a welcome feeling in the system.
Yeah.
And it leads to more bad feelings, I guess.
Yeah. Gets other parts riled up.
Yeah.
Angered. Yeah.
Yeah, and a feeling of like, oh my God, we've been here so many times, and here we are again.
Yeah.
Not just with IFS, but with all sorts of things.
See if you can get its attention and get it to really notice you in your current age, and try to send it that message that it is not alone. And that the self won't be hurt by getting to know parts. Now, I also want to agree that systems can be disturbed, right? Parts can overwhelm. But the fundamental nature of the self doesn't get injured by them. And as long as we're aware of, are other parts up, what's the degree of self energy, then we can work more efficiently and more clearly, and be more confident about, should we take this next step forward or not. So respond at all to that?
I'm trying to feel into that. It has cleared. It has cleared somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a sense of how much it feels, the presence of self, or just how it responds to this communication. That I do feel a little lighter and clearer.
Okay. Well, even if it doesn't give us a real clear answer on how it's feeling, that's okay. It doesn't have to. A lot of times just doing what we're doing, maybe listening back, kind of, those messages get through.
Yeah, and I've definitely been making a point of spending some time with it. And I think that it has let more things through in this last little while.
Yeah.
It just likes to still seem to like to show me how it can move in and just fill up the space and slow everything down. Yeah.
Yep. Can we check in quickly with the annoyed by Hazy parts? Just let them know that we get it. It makes sense. See if they have any requests.
Requests. No, they're just pointing out that they're trying to do the same thing as Hazy, but in the opposite way. And it feels very circular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just let them know you get that. It's usually how polarized protectors, that's where they're stuck. They don't have to be alone. And the more that self can get with them individually, the more you can help them kind of break that cycle. So just want to let the annoyed parts know that they matter, and that the hazy part matters. And that it doesn't have to be their job to sort everything out. How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I feel like my somewhere in there I'm kind of searching for this like circular dynamic, because that came up for me very strongly, like with the Hazy, with the whole thing. And it has to do with this mother like stuff. But I do feel there's something a bit kind of cognitive about that searching. So that's okay to like let go, or at least yeah. It's something definitely got kind of stirred.
I think so. I think we got a glimpse of probably 2 or more exiles, and protectors did what they do. And that is, in a lot of ways, that's the name of the game. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I got a quite strong sense of that mother exile after we spoke last time, in the days after, and like physical sensations and this kind of strangling sense and all sorts of things. And so
I think it's courageous what you're doing and sharing and exploring. So I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you.
I also want to thank the anxious narrator part that seemed to really stand down today.
Well, I think that the narrator part is not quite the same as the anxious part, or not even like
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then the narrator part.
The narrator part.
Also, the doubting parts, they seem to stand down pretty well today.
Yeah. And the narrator part does. It's very, very busy when, in my mind, at most times, if I'm not actually with someone or speaking to someone. Yeah. But yeah, lots of you. It's definitely true that a lot of parts have kind of like making more space than they used to. So it's nice to.
That's great. Well, I'm going to consider that progress in parts trusting your work and and our work together, and yeah, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think that how I tried to meet parts has evolved a little bit as well, and there is more self energy there when I can do that. That's been a shift in the last little while. And just sort of watching for the agenda, watching for
your ability to know how much self energy is available, I think has gotten much more clear. Just there seems to be a lot less kind of second guessing around that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing them more clearly. And then I do, even though I think there's progress, I do sort of just go into this like kind of different mode when I'm speaking with you than when I'm like listening back or trying to process all of that. And yeah, that's been interesting. But it did kind of feel like Hazy was responding to you, which was kind of interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
In a different mode feels okay, feels right, feels safe.
Yeah, it just I think there's just still a part or parts that like are sort of watching closely or active somehow, and just kind of affecting the flow of information somehow. Which feels sometimes the flow of information feels more clear when I'm processing one of these calls afterwards, or digesting, and sort of like feeling everything shifting around. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you're also totally right about, like when I was speaking with the hazy part, that seemed pretty direct to me.
Yeah.
And I just want to really invite any part. I'm happy to shift into that at any time.
Yeah.
And if that feels more efficient and yeah, again, especially with the recording, you're able to hear it back when you're in different places. And
I think that, when you've offered it before, James, like, my response is always like, of course, I would love to do that. It's just so much more direct. And there's been sort of ones that are just like, no, sort of not happening, too much vigilance or too much something. And that was like, that was less present today, but somewhat present. So.
Great. Let them all know they're all welcome. I enjoy it.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's been fun and strange.
Great. Yep. Fun and strange.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because some of the things that I have leaned towards for just kind of self-care, mental health care, like tending to my inner world in the past. Now with IFS being in the picture, I'm like, those words don't work anymore, or that doesn't work anymore. I have to reframe it. I have to kind of like make it accommodate parts. So
yep.
That's been interesting. Yeah.
Everything needed to get updated. That was
exactly
the old programming.
Yeah. And I think I'm just getting to be a bit more adept at doing that. So that's been great. Yeah. That's been great. And they are showing up more clearly. And actually, I'm just remembering that a couple of nights after we spoke last time, we went to see Kurt Weill. I don't know if you... Anyway, we went, which I have not been to live music for ages. And I got high, which is also something I have not done for a long time. Like it's definitely, overdid that kind of in my 20s quite a lot. And with some sort of physical consequences. And then I've just always been sort of worried about the effect that it had on my brain health. Yeah. And just during that like couple of hours being in that very, atmospheric situation, I could see parts and I could and I was just enjoying them so much. It was really fun. There was like ones that I hadn't really met. There's a sort of cocky, the 2 steps ahead part, which I talked about, but it was just like much more, it was much more clear. And in that time, I did perceive Hazy just as this kind of like, it was very visual to me. It was all visual. It was really interesting. Cool. Yeah, it's cool. But of course, like, for me, like, don't think I haven't thought about, okay, what kind of, substances might help me with this. And there's always something that makes me feel like, no, it's not right to do that yet. Or, only because of, I think this kind of very somewhat slow snail's pace that we've discovered, that you've helped me discover here, is somehow important. And I just think I think whenever I've had thoughts about doing that kind of thing, it's just been, my concern has been sort of like jumping stages or jumping past things. Yeah. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun.
It's also something I'm very open to talking more about anytime, and I feel like I have a lot of experience experimenting with some of those, but also, really being in places where I am more or less guiding others who are on substances and I'm not, and I'm doing that in a really intentional way.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that for me has been partly like I know, I've well, there's various places where you can sort of do something in a safe-ish container with people that you don't know, and then I'm just like, well, yeah, those things are expensive, and yeah, when I think about yeah, people in my life, I just sort of feel like that no one's quite the right person, no one's quite the right setting. And so do you mean that you've done that on the other end of the phone for people, or on the other end of Zoom for people? Or?
No, I don't. I'm not recalling doing that on the phone or on Zoom. No,
you just mean that you've held space for people in that.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I've come across some very helpful and sort of wholesome guidelines around that sort of thing. Yeah, but even then, I don't know. Something tells me like, okay, yes, but not yet. But I've been very, very drawn to doing that for a long time because, it just feels.
Is there one or two in particular that you've studied and felt drawn to?
Yeah, well, mushrooms. I mean, MDMA is something that I have tried way back, but not. I think it was just not super strong when I did it, and it was fun, but it was certainly also like I was young enough that it was just kind of doing it for a laugh, And but I mean, just taking this gummy, I was like, oh, this was, I wouldn't want to. I always feel like I might be using a metaphor that I use with patients here now, but I always feel like that it's sort of taking something out of the bank in a way. Yeah. I think I couldn't, it wasn't like there was a real sort of, there was a bit of disarray the next day. Or maybe it's just me being kind of concerned about like, I do have parts that will like be very, oh, let's do that again. Let's just do that over and over and over again. And and I think there's just some caution that comes out around that because I know how I can be. I mean, I've noticed the same thing. I mean, listen, there's alcoholism in my family. And because of that or just knowing, I've at times in my life just been so aware of that, like that sort of urge to like disappear into something or yeah, I don't know. There's just a certain caution, just kind of knowing that like,
it's a lot to be cautious about.
It is, yeah. And it's just like, it's nice to open this little door and be very, get that experience. And then you come back to your like non-open door self, right? Or not self, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you have to come back, so, but yeah, anyway, I think that
although both the ones you named are kind of renowned for having oftentimes having really long lasting effects after even just single uses.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very, very drawn to doing it. Because sometimes it just sort of feels like, I all that beautiful stuff is in there, all those beautiful like understandings and sometimes I feel like just this close to them, the same part that I sense, or maybe not the same part, but the same way that I sense that part that's like, that blocking that appreciation is just like this kind of layer over, and sometimes my whole life, Anyway, I will keep considering it.
Yeah. Well, without recommending anything, if I was going to be researching anyone, that I think would be compatible, or where it would be MDMA, I think. I think compared to some of the other, compared to mushrooms or something, it's it's a lot more I'm just gonna use the word reliable. It's kind of like, this is gonna feel like this, pretty predictably, from my understanding. And
this is something I have not really looked into, but does dosing in most cases for things is so different for different people. Yeah. I don't know. I'm the kind of person who would, like, if I started doing that research, I would go down a total rabbit hole and then sort of still feel
my
like
understanding with MDMA is the dosing is it's a little harder to get wrong. That it's kind of you either did enough or you didn't, and yeah.
I don't know. Have you done it on your own? Do you feel like you?
Yes, and one way that I've described MDMA, and this is probably not the right use of the word, but I consider it not to be what I call intoxicating.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I'm going to go operate heavy machinery, but I've never felt or seen other people who are on that and nothing else, doing anything that would look dangerous, or even put a fence around that person. Like, I've not observed that in a lot of experience with MDMA. Yeah, which just also goes to that kind of predictability, reliability metric that is something I appreciate about it.
Yeah, I mean, with any of these things, my assumption has been like, okay, get out to the woods and be in nature. But I still maybe sort of feel like some sort of container would be good. Yeah. Anyway, it's not something I've really, I mean, I've thought about just microdosing with mushrooms, because I've heard a lot of people do that, and just to be kind of curious about, like, okay, what do these tiny doses do, and so on. Yeah, a friend, well, not a close friend, but a friend that I was talking to over a year ago gave me the name of these two people that sort of facilitate. I think she was talking with psilocybins. I don't know. And I was like, oh, because she had done this. And I was like, oh, that's something to consider. But again, that was a sort of expensive option.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Anyway, this was all sort of before, or was it before? It was maybe right at the beginning of sort of me learning about IFS. And yeah, it does have appeal.
Yeah. There are a handful of talks, with Dick Schwartz talking about MDMA.
Oh yeah, I've not come across those.
Yeah, I mean, I think to summarize his take on it is like, oh yeah, this is instant self energy.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I recall him describing it.
Yeah.
And I would also.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. I think, maybe what I'm also identifying is like, okay, so let's say you do this thing and you have, X number of hours to kind of experience it. You then what do you want to get done in that time? Which is sort of like a bit defeats the purpose. But yeah, it's funny. I just sense that coming up of like, yeah, has to go in the right direction, has to kind of like uncover the right things. And it's funny. Yeah.
I've not found that to be anybody's concern once they're on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember enough about it too. Yeah, and I mean, even with the gummy, it was just like it was so enjoyable. But you had this kind of, pendulation is maybe a word that's usually used in different ways, but like of going to kind of like, whoa, this crowd is a bit overwhelming, to like, oh, my parts are so entertaining and they're so cute, and
Yeah.
So being being in a good setting would be good. Yeah. Anyway, I'll keep thinking about it. It's
yeah. Send me any questions you have.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, there's some discussion of it. You can search in the Discord for MDMA, and you'll see some of our discussions about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure. Is it Olivia I've heard talking about it? But
yes.
And yeah. But yeah, that's the thing is I sort of I kind of wish that that someone in my immediate life would be the ideal person to kind of do this with, and I don't know, or even just sort of to know that I can create space to sort of go on my own way. I think that's a consideration.
Yeah. Well, again, of course, I can't actually recommend anything. And then if I was going to recommend something, I would definitely have to say, well, you have to do this in the appropriate setting with the appropriate people and all that. But, don't be around assholes, and don't be at a big out of control party.
No, of course not. But, let's say it's nice weather and you're outside, and let's say, because I mean, here I'm never, there's always going to be some people somewhere kind of thing. So I guess, is there a concern that, I don't know, you just sort of get, I don't know, like there's an interaction that's not great for whatever reason, because like there's all sorts of crazy people around. Potentially, I don't know. Yeah.
I would want to really limit that possibility.
Yeah, for sure. And what's the kind of time frame that
I would say probably about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. And if you were doing this, which sounds like you have, from a sort of Hertz perspective, or are you just like, let's do it and see what happens? Or are you like,
do I have direction?
Yeah. Do you kind of have parts that you like want to get to know better or whatever? No, you just see.
No, but I'm recalling, I think the last time I did it, and I was by myself, and I spent 2 or 3 hours just journaling and talking to parts and being happy.
But like for me, there's this part that's always like, it's going to be wrong. It's not going to be right. It's not going to be, So for me, like if I was, if that came up, well, like listen to me trying to be like, well, it's this and that, but
those are fair questions.
Yeah. So I guess it's like what and so that part.
It was choppy. Can we say that again?
I hope it would go. Oh yeah. Well, my thought is, I suppose what I would hope would happen is what happens when self meets that part. But yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing is that you're less likely to be kind of blended with parts when you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, there's no certainty around anything, but
or that blendedness is more just welcome and safe. And I mean, I've seen people in tears on MDMA, but they're connecting to something really deep, and they feel like they're right where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I mean the protectors, like the Hazy protector, who are sort of seem to be very hellbent on like, okay, it's not good to feel this stuff because it could just be very groundless, to quote Hazy. Yeah. Do you have you heard of people having experiences where those parts feel bypassed or kind of, pushed aside by doing that kind of thing, by getting there in a different way?
I personally have not witnessed that experience from people having that protector backlash.
Yeah.
But I was experienced with MDMA before discovering IFS, and also after. So, I don't have that much data, but they're really good questions, and I'm not sure I've ever heard anything really even approximating a negative experience with it. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.